Coming to you live from Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the beautiful Appleby Business Center studios. It's time for Northwest Arkansas Business Radio with Adam Robison. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another fantastic episode of Northwest Arkansas Business Radio. My name is Adam Robison, and I am so excited that you have joined us for another episode, Northwest Arkansas Business Radio, where Northwest Arkansas comes to find out the magic of small business and learn about the people that are making the magic happen. Today, we have another gentleman in the Business RadioX studios that is making things happen. This is Brandon Watts. And if you've been around networking circles, you've met Brandon. You know that he's the mystical force behind B. Watts Photography. He's definitely had some high-end clients that he served with that business. But now his heart and his mind and direction and energy is focused on a new nonprofit called Kids and Cameras. We'll learn more about all of these things here in just a few minutes. But Brandon, welcome to Business Radio X. Welcome to the Northwest Arkansas Business Radio podcast. Welcome, man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on here. I'm just excited to let people know about what I have going on.
Yeah, it's super cool. If you've been around Northwest Arkansas, then no doubt you've seen Brandon in and out of various events. He does a great job. Brandon, before we started recording today, we just really decided, hey, man, we want to know who you are and what you're about. And one of my first questions was where you grew up. And so talk to us about what it was like to grow up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and what eventually led you to make that change.
Yeah. So, grew up in Fort Smith, went in junior high, Chemist Junior High, high school. I'm a Northside Grizzly, of course,
Okay.
So, Bear.
Mhm.
Grew up in Fort Smith. It's a nice place to grow up. I will say it wasn't a lot to do. That's the hard thing about Fort Smith. It seems like a lot of people can sometimes get stuck down there if you don't have a certain career or something. It can be kind of tough down there. But I grew up in a beautiful household with both my parents. I got 4 other siblings. I'm the baby in the family.
The baby.
Yeah,
Okay.
the baby.
So
in
are
the
you
family.
the one that's a little spoiled?
Nah, that'd be my brother Christopher. It's the middle child.
He'll appreciate you saying that when he gets to hear this.
Oh yeah. It was him. It was definitely him.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. So, when I was a teenager, I moved out here from California to the Russellville area. And what I learned about that was there's nothing to do in Russellville either.
No, it's not.
In Central California, you have water parks and arcades and all this stuff that you could go to. I moved out here and there wasn't much. So how did you survive your childhood in Fort Smith, I guess is what I should say?
Video games.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of video games. My parents were more on the strict side. So it was more like, I feel like all my friends were made like in school, or I was also in the band. So most of the Boys and Girls Club. That's
cool.
The places that I grew up being at, because my parents wouldn't let me just go anywhere and everywhere, go over people's house if they don't personally know the parents or anything like that. Didn't understand it then, more understand it now as a father myself. So, there's just always looking out and being protective. So, yeah, but that also led to, once when I got out, having some freedom, man.
Yeah.
I got a little taste of freedom. I didn't know how to act.
So let's talk about that. You grow up in Fort Smith. When it's time to go to school or think about going to school, you headed up north to the hill, right?
I did.
Right. How was your experience there?
College was fun. It was difficult. I was also one of them kids who went to college but not sure what I wanted to do, which might be surprising a lot of people, because also both my parents were professors at the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. So yeah, my dad did like psychology and sociology. My mom did like accounting and business, math and stuff like that.
So ideally, your path should have been carved, right?
Yeah. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I ended up doing information systems because of my my brother, he worked at ABF, and I just saw like, oh, the life he lived and the kind of house he was in. And I was just like, oh, well, he makes a lot of money and he travels. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. So
yeah, heck yeah, that's great. That's great. So as you talk about your U of A adventure, did everything work out as you had planned? How did that story go?
no, it didn't. I ended up being a knucklehead, hanging out with the wrong people. Ended up getting in trouble with the law that drastically affected my whole my future.
Wow.
Yeah, so I ended up just doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Ended up getting in trouble. Actually got locked up, and then yeah, when I got out, I ended up going back to school, finishing my degree.
Nice.
Never got in trouble since because I realized I ain't built like that. This is not the life for me.
It's not you, right?
It's not the life for me.
Yeah.
And you thought there was nothing to do in Fort Smith, get locked up, and then realize that there's really nothing to do in Fort Smith. Seemed like, like a paradise.
Yeah, yeah. Fort Smith is looking up all of a sudden.
right. I was like, yeah. And then with my parents being like strict on me, I guess it made me like an extrovert. So that's why I like being out. I love talking to people. But with me going through that and still managing to get my degree, it was still hard for me to get jobs. It was me working at jobs where I felt like, oh, okay, I might have been working here, but this is not what I want to do lifelong or career. But I realized that, hey, no matter where I'm at, I'm going to work my way up.
Yeah.
So whether that's like, oh, I'm a cashier, then I became the receiver. Then I was like, oh, well, I'm getting a minor in supply chain management. So I went to like a warehouse to get that experience.
Yeah.
And then I left out of the warehouse. The company I was with was Hart. So I left out of the warehouse and then I got in there like produce manager trainee program because I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna look real good on the resume. And after I did it, like I got a lot of interviews with a lot of other corporations and stuff like that, but I could never get past the HR policy.
I got you.
So that made life difficult because it's like, oh, I have this degree, I have this, I changed my life around, but because the mistakes in my past, they're still not letting me in the door. It's a hindrance. It didn't matter that, oh, he got a degree in information system and a minor in supply chain management. The only thing they saw was, oh, it's a risk factor. And it really wasn't the hiring managers. I had a lot of hiring managers try to fight for me, but they didn't have enough pull when it comes to those major companies like that, where it's super corporate, people could buy shares, all that stuff. They don't have that type of pull. So the jobs I ended up going for were the more, family owned, local, something like that, somebody who can understand and listen to my story and then make the decision like, okay, we still want you to work here.
Yeah.
So those were the kind of places that actually, made a difference for me instead of holding me back. So I appreciate the local family owned and just the community compared to, the bigger companies, just because it's just harder to navigate and get through that door.
Sure. We all have things that happen in our past that we grow from. I know we've all made several mistakes. Sounds like you've learned from yours. I remember in February, I think it was, I had just started networking in Northwest Arkansas, and I was sitting at the Golden Corral on Wednesday morning for CRC, which is a great event held by the Rogers Lowell Chamber of Commerce. And you walked in, and I remember thinking, man, that guy looks cool. I love your hair. Always have, still do. And I thought, man, that guy looks cool. And then your business card went around, and you've got a really cool business card that says B. Watts Photography. So let's talk about your business, because what you've managed to do is grow a pretty powerful and vibrant photography business out of learning from your mistakes and setting a course for a life that you want to live. So talk to us about B. Watts Photography and its scope and reach and just the impact that company has had on your life.
Yeah. So, well, let's start with the reason I got into photography. So it's a couple of reasons. I kind of like photography because, when you get a new laptop and you see all the scenery on the backgrounds and stuff like that, I like, it looks great. And I was like, oh man, I would love to like take some photos like this. And then also, like I said, it's difficult for me getting jobs. And I was working at jobs, even though I was working my way up, I really didn't want to be there. I was like, man, I can't just be sitting here doing this. I kind of need a side hustle. So then I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a camera.
There you go.
Or whatever. I hired a photographer for an event, and I realized, how much money they made in one day, even though they did a terrible job. I got what I paid for. But it almost made me feel like, oh, I can do better.
Sure.
So I ended up getting me the camera with the idea of, I'm going to make money with this. Okay. And then I thought I would do a lot of landscape and architecture kind of for myself. And then I said, but to make money, it's hard to make money doing landscape and architecture. So I was like, I'm going to photograph people. Ended up photographing people and felt in love with it. And then more that I dived into photography, more I kind of realized like how much I always liked photos. Like I used to look at my parents' albums, like the old albums with the plastic paper that you pull back and then the photos are inside. So I always felt like through those photos and being able to see family that I never had a chance to meet, like my granddad, my dad's dad, never got a chance to meet him. I always heard he was a great guy. I know my dad's a great guy. I see the way he was raised. So being able to look at those photographs and how stories that my dad told me about his dad, it kind of like helped my imagination like paint this picture of him. It's almost like I met him without meeting him.
That's really
so
cool.
I feel like it's real important for people to have photos of themselves.
Yeah.
Me being a dad, I want to make sure I have photos with my daughter. I have photos of myself because when I pass and I'm no longer here, the things that I feel like are going to really be cherished are photos. Because a lot of people want to be like, oh, you will never forget somebody's face, but you do.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And being able to have moments captured, frozen in time to be remembered and always look on, and you got these happy moments. I feel like that's something everybody should have. So whether you like photos or you don't like photos or something like that, I feel like it's important for you to have them, especially if you got people who care about you, who love you. And just like for the people you care about. I worked at Bedford Camera and Video, and people would come in and print out photos for like a memorial service, and they try print it off bid, but then they realized the only photos they had was on their phone or a little wallet size, and they try to make a 24 by 36 and realize you can't blow it up that big.
Yeah.
And then they be like, this is the only photo I have. And that's like sad for me here. Like that's the only photo you have of your mom or your dad or somebody who passed that's super close to you.
Yeah.
And
I feel like you're reading my mail right now because my dad passed away on Father's Day of 92. He was only 37 years old.
Oh,
I was 15. I just turned 16 or was going to turn 16 a couple of days later. And then we moved to Arkansas. It was part of the plan because my dad was terminally ill and my mom relocated us out here. And then just a few years later, we had a house fire and lost everything. And so literally Father's Day, just this last weekend, I'm sitting in my house and it's just a chill day. It's Father's Day had gotten easier because that was 31 years ago when that happened. Right. But all of a sudden I get a text of a picture of my mom and dad for when I was like 14, 15. And you're right. I was like, man, I've forgotten what he looked like. And it just that picture on my phone right now is so incredibly special to me because it's literally probably one of 3 pictures that I have of my dad now. And so it takes up an enormous bit of equity in our hearts and in our mind when these photographs are allowed to be taken, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's just so good.
You better make me tear up over
dude, I'm telling you, I was trying, I got cold chills while you were talking and I was just like, oh, I got to share the story because that literally just happened to me like 3 days ago. Right. So, so talk to us. Like that's an incredible, inspiring story as to why you got that camera. You saw it as a way out. So I guess was the next step Brandon Watts or B Watts Photography?
So it started off as a side hustle. And then I remember where I made like $10,000. And then I kind of realized, I was like, you know what? I think I might actually be able to do this as a career. So then I started diving in deep, trying to figure out how I can get to that point. So, excuse me. So I got my first camera in 2015. October 2017, I went full time because I ended up getting an independent contract doing product photography. And it wasn't like a huge contract. They just paid me by the hour, but I could work 40 hours a week.
Nice.
they told me I made my own schedule that's open like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it's with Marshalltown Tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just photographing all the tools for their new catalog.
Wow.
So it's like a 4 or 5 month contract.
That's incredible.
So yeah, I just used that contract to honestly just save up money and just stack it up just for the simple fact. I was like, I didn't have the clientele.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. But I was like, this is one of the few times where I had something going where I was like, okay, I can stack up this money. The contract to end like January or February of 2018.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can probably pay all my bills and stack up at least 3 months worth of money. So then if for some reason after the contract, I don't have any clients, I can survive for 3 months.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's how I end up going about it and making it full time. And then the crazy thing is in 2018, when the contract was getting ready to end, I had a business partner at the time, and we decided to get a studio. So that money I saved up went away real quick because I was trying to build a studio. Got a studio in Springdale called Studio 479, 2,400 square feet. So when it came in there, it's just empty. Wow. And we completely like turned it into a full functioning studio.
Okay. So tell me, because I don't know that our listeners know what a full functioning studio is. Go ahead and take us on a verbal tour around your space.
A verbal tour.
You know, what are some things that you put in a full functioning studio?
Yeah. So, you know, in my studio, you walk in, I have my office, I had the desk, I got some photos up on the wall. And then when you walk into the space, it's just completely wide open. And wanted to keep it that way because I wanted to make sure that I can photograph at all parts of the studio without nothing being in the way. So one thing I have a sight wall or whatever. So a pretty huge sight wall, like you can pull in a car and have a sight wall on it. So for the grand opening, I had McCarthy Daniels let me borrow a Corvette to put in there just to advertise it. So yeah, I got a sight wall. I got different walls painted different colors. I have like a 3D wood wall that was made out of pallets. Broke down the pallets, sanded it, stained it, put it up on the wall. Got an all black wall, and then I just got multiple like backdrops and canvas backdrops. So pretty much the possibilities are endless. The last car I photographed was a 1958 Corvette.
Wow.
Yeah. They ended up putting it in an auction in Phoenix. And yeah, sold it for like $350,000.
Holy smokes.
They had the new engine in there too from the Corvette. So that's the crazy part about it. Like it was powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so that's pretty much like full functioning studio. I have other people who rent out the studio, like other businesses that's like want a commercial site wall or something like that, where for a studio that size with my where I'm at with photography, the only studios that's not have a site wall have something that large at the time was, you know, you had like Rock Hill Studio or like Barn Hill. Is it Barn? The Barn Studio or something like that. But they're like full service, like movie production. You're not going to be able to come in there and rent that studio out for $125 an hour.
No, definitely
which not. You can come to mine. So I had that good center point for people where it's like, hey, we don't have big commercial money, but we actually need a space that's more than just, you know, a room.
Got it, man.
So a lot of my clients, when they first walk into my studio, they never been in the studio like that. It's pretty much just, we had been in a room, a little space, or, you know, JCPenney's. So yeah, so that's the studio space.
Okay. So all right. So Brandon Watts Photography, B Watts Photography has taken off. You've had several corporate clients.
Yeah.
Do you do so you do commercial and families?
I do commercial and I do personal. So what I call my bread and butter. It's gonna be commercial events, headshots, and product photography. I did Walmart shareholders this year, where we had Kevin Hart, Chris Evans, Snoop Dogg, Pitbull.
That's so cool. I'm glad you're not in the name dropping.
I got a name drop. 15 minutes of fame. You betcha. Yeah. So I did commercial events. I done photograph professional athletes, actresses, the U.S. Senator John Bozeman.
Yeah.
So multiple people where it comes to whether it's political, public figures, just celebrities. I pretty much done it all. And then I also I photograph people's adventures.
Oh,
so
okay.
Besides the commercial and stuff like that, just photographing people's adventures and documenting, because you have families and stuff like that that go on trips.
Yeah.
And somebody always gets caught behind the camera, and they never end the photos, or it's always like a selfie, and you just don't have any great photos. Even if you're somewhat decent with an actual professional camera, you're always the person behind it.
Sure.
So being able to take a photographer with you on your trips to document it, where you can actually live in the moment, enjoy it, and actually get really nice shots caught in the moment, not pose, not just these nice candid when you're really in the moment. And then if you actually do want a photo shoot, or if you go take your family to the beach or something, we can also do a photo shoot on the beach. So last year I went to Scotland. Photograph a birthday celebration. Right, yeah, it was awesome. So
somebody hired you to go to Scotland, to document their
birthday celebration.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They had rented like 3 castles.
I think I'm in the wrong job.
Yeah,
man.
They had rented like 3 castles. We had like the Highland Games throwing the log and all that stuff. Had a bad piper, and I told her, I was like, you just didn't have a bad piper. You had the bad piper. Like, this bad piper used to play for the Queen every morning.
Is that right?
Yeah, in the garden. And I also realized why the Queen had them play in the garden while she was in her room, because when you're in a room with a bad piper, it's very loud. It's very loud.
Yeah.
So I was like, I get it. Go out there in the garden and play for me, because you can be too close.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I was actually a student at a high school in Fresno, California, and their mascot, it was McLean High School. They were the McLean Highlanders. And so every single pep rally, they had a team of like 6 bagpipers that would come into the gym, and literally it felt like it was blowing the roof off the place.
It was
loud. So loud.
It's ridiculously loud.
Yeah.
Like I never actually knew how loud a bagpiper is.
Oh, man.
So yeah.
I
see why when they was going to war, they'd be marching out with the bagpiper, because you could just hear it from a distance.
Oh, yeah. And you just feel the chills start working up your arms, something like that. All right, cool. Well, I think we've learned a lot about B. Watts photography. Let's talk about the new passion of your heart, Kids and Cameras.
Yes.
Talk to us about what Kids and Cameras is, and what drove your heart in that direction.
Yeah, so Kids and Cameras, where we teach kids how to express themselves emotionally through photography. We teaching them how to use a camera. We also not teach them the business side of things, and just how to be a young self-starter. So we got 3 target audience where we work with kids from low-income families, kids with autism, kids in juvenile detention centers.
Wow.
So this Kids and Cameras got started this year. So it's a new nonprofit. We just had our first program starting with the Juvenile Detention Center here in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we in there last Wednesday, worked with a couple of kids, and I'm be going in there every Wednesday for an hour or two. This starting off, like right now, we just started off with simple composition, just teaching them what composition is. I did a little introduction. I also let them know, I wanted them to know why I'm here, because I just didn't want them to feel like, oh, it's just somebody coming up in here. Like, no, I'm here because I actually been in trouble before. And I wanted to let them know, like, you have options. There's different paths that you can take. There's ways you can change their life around. This moment in your life is only just a page in your whole story. So I wanted to let them know that you can keep moving forward, and you can get past this time in your life that you might feel is difficult.
Yeah.
And some people, like I said, when I went in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just kind of picked my career based off, oh, I saw my brother making money. Yeah. And all this stuff. If I really went back to it, I probably wouldn't have the information system. I'm probably that person who should have just did like business. Like, okay. This a nice simple degree.
Just simple degree.
Yeah. Where you don't really know what you want to do. So everybody be like, I'm gonna just do business. And that just can be anything. Yeah. So being able to talk to those kids to let them know, like, hey, like, the y'all getting in trouble. Y'all got in trouble now. And then when you turn 18, this is not even gonna follow you.
Yeah.
So letting them know, like, hey, I got in trouble when I was an adult and things were difficult. But now I was like, I got a successful photography business. The same companies where I couldn't get through the door are the same companies that have me come through the door now.
That's amazing.
Because I was letting them know, like, a lot of times, like, yeah, your record can stop you from getting a job because these companies want to see you as a liability and don't want to take on the risk because they look at it. They look at it from their perspective. Hey, I have a business. I don't want to take on any unnecessary risk where there's other people out there who doesn't have this, and I don't have that as a threat or a fear.
Yeah.
But it's like when I started my own business, the same companies that wouldn't let me through their door are now like, oh, come in here and photograph and do these and do all these things for us because now I'm no longer that risk factor.
Yeah, the risk has become the reward.
Yeah,
right?
The risk has become the reward because it's pretty much, oh, if I walk into your business and something happens, oh, it's no longer like, oh, that company can get sued. Oh, my company's going to get sued.
Right.
So all the risk is now on me.
Right.
So then they feel like, they don't have that risk factor.
Sure.
We're more willing to let you in the door and stuff like that. And it's crazy when you kind of think about it. It's like, oh, when I applied, I couldn't get the job. I couldn't get paid. So I was HR policy. But now that I got my own business, I can. And then since I done grew my business to such a successful way, I'm also now comfortable to like tell my story. Because before I wasn't. I was too nervous that, oh, if I walk into a job or something like this, and then they hear I got a record or a background, that might stop them from hiring me or too many judgments. But now that I done built my photography business, done had a lot of success in it, well known in the community, done being featured multiple magazines, done had a photograph in Vogue.
Come on.
So I mean, like I done did a lot to get where I'm at. So
that's awesome.
Now that I'm more confident and more willing to tell my story is me now being a testimony for these kids and letting them know, like, hey, your life is not over. You can still be great. You can still accomplish things. And even if photography is not their passion, they just enjoy it. Me teaching them the business side of things, how to start your own LLC, how to be a professional, how to go in and negotiate contracts and be able to just run a full service business, that I'm giving you the foundations and the tools that you need to actually go off and run any business, whether it's photography or not, because you can have, that's why, people use like the CEO of Ford and stuff like, oh, he might be the CEO of Ford, but he don't know how to build no car.
True story.
And then that same CEO can go be the CEO of Walmart, CEO of Tyson. It's not that they got to understand how to build everything or do all the things they do. They just got to understand how to run the business and be successful at it. People can understand. If you can understand that, you can really go and start any kind of business. That's why when you have entrepreneurs and you have millionaires, they have 7, 15 plus businesses, because when they learn how to run one successful business, then they start with the second one and then the third one. And then it starts becoming easier because now they actually understand business and they understand how to find what is missing and be able to provide that service, supply and demand. So that's what you're looking for.
Man, you clearly have a passion for this. Like, what's funny is, and I don't know that the audience can see if they're watching this on YouTube, is I've got a list of questions, and literally I'm just marking them off without asking them, because your message is so focused. Like you're getting to the questions or to the answers before I can ask the questions. It's pretty awesome. Listen, I know that Kids and Cameras really comes down to your core value of the importance of mentorship and how one person can speak and make a difference in the life of another person. Why don't you go ahead and speak on, in your opinion, what role does mentorship play in Kids and Cameras and the development of young individuals?
I think having a mentor can, just with anybody, no matter how old you get, everybody needs a mentor. And I feel like having a mentor there to help you out on your way, to answer questions, to be that knowledge for you, because a mentor has been there. They done these things. So let you know mistakes, best ways of doing things. And the way that helps just develop you is that you're constantly learning. You're learning how to better yourself. You're learning from somebody who's been here and who's actually done it. So it helps you develop your skills on all scales, like to be a successful person, to be a business person, to especially in the line of photography, because photographers, there's a lot of photographers. Everybody knows somebody that's a photographer, somebody who got a camera, all of this stuff. The reason that I have clients return to me is for the simple fact, yes, my work is great, but there's a lot of other photographers whose work is great. So the reason they come to me is also they gotta like me.
There you go.
They gotta like me. They got to know that I'm out here trying to be different, trying to do good for the community, stuff like that. So the same way with these kids having a mentor, it's going to develop them into how to be a role model, how to sit here and be somebody in the community that people can actually look up to, and how you can be a service to them, because it's not always just about, oh, let's make money, or, about that. Sometimes it's really just about building relationships.
Love it. Man,
when you can build a nice, genuine relationship with a person, all the other stuff comes afterwards. If you can put out good energy, be positive, make sure that with every decision you make, you're doing it, with every decision you make, you're making like the good decision, like not good as in like, oh, this decision is better than that, but you're never doing bad to anybody. Because really that karma comes back around.
Do no harm, right?
Yeah, do no harm. So when you building these genuine relationships and stuff like that, the people that are my best supporters or my best clients are the ones that I actually have relationships with. So it makes it easier to just handle business.
Love it.
So I guess to circle all the way back, having a good mentor will teach these kids how to handle business and just how to be a role model, and just being able to also just express themselves.
Yeah, man, I love it. Brandon, we're running short on time. You and I have been talking, hadn't really hit a whole lot of the questions we planned to hit, but I think we told a better story. How about that?
Yeah.
And so how can our listeners in the broader community get involved to support Kids and Cameras?
To support Kids and Cameras, one of the first things you could do is you can go to kidsandcameras.com. It's KIDZ, the letter N, and then cameras.com. On there, you can, if you're interested in being a volunteer, you can sign up and be a volunteer. Then when we have things going on, we will definitely reach out to you. If you would like to donate, you can definitely go on there and donate. We have a donate tab that's on there. We're also part of a match program where the Walton Foundation is matching up to $1,000 per donor, a maximum of $15,000, but up to $1,000 per donor.
Wow.
So we're really trying to get to that $30,000 mark, because what I failed to mention is the studio that I have, I plan on making it into a community center for kids.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So just for like, the kids in the juvenile detention center, when they get released and they still want to be a part of it, I don't want to give up on them. I still want them to have a nice space to come to, instead of being out there, misbehaving or getting into the streets or just anything like that. If they want to come be creative and be able to express their emotions and get out their feelings, I want to create that nice safe space for kids to come. And then not also just like the kids from the low income or kids with autism or in the juvenile detention center, just all kids in general. So creating that nice safe space and introducing them into a nice professional photography studio. So if you want to donate to that, you can also go to kidsandcameras.com. I have an announcement bar at the top. There'll be a pop-up for it, and you can just donate to that match program, and it'd be really helpful. We're at $10,500 right now, trying to get to 30.
Okay.
So,
we ought to be able to do that. $30,000, that's chump change in Northwest Arkansas.
And then they double it. So really it looks like we're trying to get that other 20,000 well, 19,500,
Right.
you really only got to get half of that because they're not matching instantly. So if we get, $10,000 donated, that
Right.
end up being 20.
That's
so
amazing.
it's closer than what it seems.
Yeah.
So hoping this to keep that momentum going and being able to open this community center and just be able to provide a nice space, because I just imagine what I could have had if I would have been a kid introduced into photography.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Or even if I would have just started, my journey when I first went to college or something like that, or had that introduction to it. So then maybe I might have majored in photography and stuff like that. Cause that's still beneficial. Like, I'm self-taught, but it's still beneficial, go to college. And, if I would have got a major in photography, that could have just been more connections and networking, because key is networking.
So let's jump off that thought, because I've got two more questions, and this is one of them. Let's hope that someone, young person, young adult, is out listening to this episode right now. Their story sounds real familiar to your story. At least, hey, I had a decent upbringing, but I made some decisions that weren't the best decisions for me to make, and now I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. What advice would you give to someone like that who might be listening to this episode right now saying, you know what? I'm ready to be a success. I'm ready to change the direction of my story. Why don't you speak directly to those people and tell them what you think they could do to just begin to make some positive changes?
I think one of the biggest things when it comes to making positive change is developing healthy habits. Healthy habits. Even if you got to start out small, adding in one healthy habit every day, trying to do it. Cutting out people that really ain't your friends, people who allow you to go out there and do things that you shouldn't be doing. They might not be encouraging you, but they might not also be telling you, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Mm-hmm. The people who are willing to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, you better than this, those are your real friends. Those are the people you keep around you. People who introduce you back into the life that you're not trying to live, then you have to cut people off. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah. You have to.
And it's one of the hardest things to do.
It is one of the hardest things to do. But it is where you want to make a change and you want to do better. And you just want to live a life where you're not looking over your shoulder, or you're not worried about, police coming or just anything like that. You got to start making the changes now. Everything in life is one decision. Mm. That's it. When you got to make a decision, that's how I look at
There's a lot of much wisdom.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. It's like your choices matter, and the choice you make highly affects your future. There's a lot of different ways you could have went. Maybe at the time I got in trouble, if I would not done that, if I wouldn't have made that decision, I could be somewhere else in life.
Yeah.
But my decision led me on this path, so instead of looking at my stuff as a regret, I more or less look at it as a life lesson. Everything is a life lesson. You can learn from everything. So I would just say, start making those smart decisions now. Start doing what you have to do. Don't ever think that you have to do something to better yourself in a situation, because only thing that's going to lead to is making it harder for yourself.
So good. Brandon, appreciate you and your time today. You've been very generous. We went a little long here, but that's all right. Tell our listeners how they can follow your business, learn more about B. Watts Photography or Kids and Cameras.
So for B. Watts Photography, you can go to BWATTS.photography. No .com. It's BWatts.photography. That'll take you directly to my website. You can find me on Instagram at BWatts Photography. Same way with Kids and Cameras. I already got you the website for that, but you can also follow Kids and Cameras on Instagram as well. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm really an open book. I like talking. Obviously, I got the gift of gab, so I can sit here all day and talk on this podcast.
Yeah. I think you might need your own, brother. I'm just saying.
I might. I can really do this.
You've shown how easy it is, and you're really good at it too. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been just an incredible episode of Northwest Arkansas Business Radio. So grateful for Brandon coming by the studio. Go ahead, make sure you follow him on his socials. think about how you might contribute to Kids and Cameras, or if you are a part of one of those companies that are looking for a high-end photographer to come out and make you look like $1 million, B. Watts Photography is where it's at. Brandon, do you have anything you want to say before we sign off, my friend?
I just hope everybody enjoyed this podcast, and I hope no matter what you do, just be a positive impact in your community.
That's so good. All right. Well, for Brandon Watts from B. Watts Photography and Kids and Cameras, my name is Adam Robinson. It has been an absolutely enjoyable episode of Northwest Arkansas Business Radio. You see the plug from the shirt. Go ahead, look, like, follow. But bigger than that, make a difference in the life of somebody else, because the rewards that come from that are immeasurable. So from our house to yours, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Northwest Arkansas Business Radio.